Chapter 9. Raja Vidya Raja Guhya Yoga. Brahmagyana is the best religion. In the 8th discourse has been declared the yoga of concentration, dharana, through Nadi as well as its process, and its result has been shown to be none other than the attainment of Brahman at a subsequent period, through fire and light and the like, whence there is no return. Now, with a view to give no room to the supposition that the attainment of moksha is possible only by this means and by no other, the Lord proceeds as follows.
Atha navamoऽध्यायः Rajavidya Rajaguhya Yogah Shri Bhagavanuvacha Idam tu te guhyatamam prabhakshyamyanasuyave Jnanam vijnana sahitam yajñātva mokshase shubhat.
Translation. The blessed Lord said, "To you who dost not cavil, I shall now declare this, the greatest secret, knowledge combined with experience, which having known you shalt be liberated from evil. Alone forms the direct means of attaining moksha, as declared in the Shruti and the Smriti. And nothing else is a direct means to moksha, as the passages of the Shruti like the following declare. Now the other princes who understand otherwise than thus, they shall attain to perishable regions. On attaining this knowledge you will be liberated from the bondage of samsara."
Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitramidamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukham kartumavyayam.
Translation. The sovereign science, the sovereign secret, the supreme purifier is this, immediately comprehensible, unopposed to dharma, very easy to perform, imperishable. Of sciences it is the king, because it is of great splendor indeed. The science of Brahman is the most brilliant of all sciences. So also, it is the king of secrets. Of all the purifiers, this knowledge of Brahman is the best purifier. That it is a purifier needs no saying, since it reduces karma to ashes in an instant, root and all the karma, dharma and adharma, which has been accumulated during many thousand births. Moreover, it can be comprehended by pratyaksha, by immediate perception, like the feeling of pleasure and so on. What is possessed of many a desirable quality may be opposed to dharma, but not so is the knowledge of Atman opposed to dharma. On the other hand, it is not separable from dharma, not opposed to it. Even then it may be supposed that it is very difficult to attain, but it is not so. Says the Lord, it is very easy to acquire, like the power of discriminating gems. Now, of the other acts, those which involve little trouble and are easily accomplished are seen to be productive of small results, and difficult acts are found to be productive of great results. Accordingly, it may be imagined that this Brahmagyana which is so easily attained perishes when its effect is exhausted. To prevent this supposition, the Lord says that it is imperishable. It does not perish like an act when the effect is exhausted. Wherefore knowledge of Atman, self, is worth acquiring. But
Ashraddhadhanah purusha dharmasyasya parantapa Aprapya mam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani.
Translation. Persons having no faith in this dharma, O harasser of your foes, without reaching me, remain verily in the path of the mortal world. Those who have no faith in this dharma, law, religion, knowledge of the self, those who do not believe in its existence or in its effects, the sinful who follow the doctrine of the demons, asuras, regarding the physical body itself as the self, these greedy and sinful persons do not attain to me, the Supreme Lord. The attaining of me is certainly out of question, wherefore, the implication is that they do not attain even to devotion, bhakti, which is one of the paths leading to me. They are sure to remain in the path of the mortal world, in that path only which leads to hell, narka, and to the lower kingdoms of animals, etc. All beings rest in the Lord. Having prepared Arjuna to listen to the doctrine, by extolling it, the Lord says,
Maya tadavidam sarvam jagadavyaktamurtina Matsthani sarvabhutani na chaham teshvavasthitaha.
Translation. By me all this world is pervaded, my form unmanifested. All beings dwell in me, and I do not dwell in them. All this world is pervaded by my highest being, my form being invisible to the senses. In me, of unmanifested form, dwell all beings from Brahma down to the plant. No being devoid of the self can ever become an object of experience. Wherefore they dwell in me, they are self-existent, or have an individual existence. Through me, the self, i.e., they are what they are in virtue of me, the self, underlying them all. Since I am the self of all those beings, it would seem to the deluded as though I dwell in them. Wherefore I say, I do not dwell in those beings, because of the absence of contact with others, unlike corporeal things. I am certainly the innermost essence even of the Akasha. That which is unconnected with any object cannot indeed be contained anywhere as though in a receptacle. Wherefore, as I am unconnected with any object,
Na cha matsthani bhutani pashyame yogamaishwaram Bhuta bhrinna cha bhutastho mamatma bhuta bhavanaha.
Translation. Nor do those beings dwell in me, behold my divine yoga. Sustaining all the beings, but not dwelling in them, is myself, the cause of beings. And yet these beings, from Brahma downwards, dwell not in me, behold my divine working, the divine mystery, the real nature of the self. Accordingly, the Shruti speaks of the unattached condition of the self, seeing that he is unconnected with any object, devoid of attachment, he is never attached. Point. Behold, there is yet another mystery. Though unattached, my self supports all beings, but does not dwell in them, as shown above with reasons. Then how to justify the Lord's words, myself? We answer, separating, from the real self, the aggregate of the physical and other material environments, and regarding that aggregate as the I, the Lord speaks of the self as myself, so far following only the popular conception, not certainly that he believes, as the masses ignorantly believe, that the Atman, the self, is distinct from himself. And further, it is myself that cause all beings to come into being, that cause all beings to grow. By way of illustrating by an example what has been taught in the two preceding verses, the Lord says,
Yathakashasthito nityam vayuh sarvatra go mahan Tatha sarvani bhutani matsthani tyupadharaya.
Translation. As the mighty wind moving everywhere rests ever in the Akasha, so, know you, do all beings rest in me. It is observed in our ordinary experience that the wind, moving everywhere and mighty in expanse, ever rests in the Akasha, so also in me, who am all-pervading like the Akasha, do all beings rest without any contact at all. The Lord is the source and the end of all beings. Thus, as the wind rests in the Akasha, so do all beings rest in me as long as the world lasts.
सर्वभूतानि कौन्तेय प्रकृतिं यान्ति मामिकाम् कल्पक्षये पुनस्तानि कल्पादौ विसृजाम्यहम्.
Translation. All beings, O son of Kunti, go into my Prakriti at the end of a kalpa. I send them forth again at the beginning of the next kalpa. Prakriti, the inferior one composed of the three gunas. The end of a kalpa is the time of dissolution, pralaya, and the beginning of a kalpa is the time of production, utpatti. Thus,
प्रकृतिं स्वामवष्टभ्य विसृजामि पुनः पुनः भूतग्राममिमं कृत्स्नमवशं प्रकृतेर्वशात्.
Translation. Resorting to my Prakriti, I again and again send forth the whole multitude of beings, powerless under the control of the Prakriti. With the help of the Prakriti, of avidya, which is subject to me, I cause all these beings we now see to emanate again and again from the Prakriti, all of them being rendered powerless by avidya and other sources of evil under the influence of the Prakriti, of svabha or nature point. The Lord is not bound by his acts. Then as creating this multitude of beings of unequal conditions, you, the Supreme Lord, shalt be subject to dharma and adharma arising from that act? In reply, the Lord says,
न च मां तानि कर्माणि निबध्नन्ति धनञ्जय उदासीनवदासीनमसक्तं तेषु कर्मसु.
Translation. Nor do these acts, O Dhananjaya, bind me, remaining like one unconcerned, unattached to those acts. The acts involved in the unequal creation of the multitudinous beings do not bind me, the Isvara. Now, the Lord gives the reason why he is not affected by the acts. I, knowing the immutability of the self, remain like one who is unconcerned, without attachment for the fruit of the act, without the egotistic feeling, I do. Wherefore, in the case of others also, the absence of the egotistic feeling of agency and the absence of attachment for results is the cause of freedom from dharma and adharma. Otherwise, the deluded man is bound by his own acts like the silkworm in the cocoon. Now, the statements I send forth this multitude of beings, 9.7, and remaining like one unconcerned involve a self-contradiction. In explanation thereof, the Lord says,
मयाध्यक्षेण प्रकृतिः सूयते सचराचरम् हेतुनानेन कौन्तेय जगद्विपरिवर्तते.
Translation. By me presiding, Prakriti produces the moving and the unmoving. Because of this, O son of Kunti, the world revolves. By me presiding, as a mere viewer on every side and the immutable witness. My Maya, the avidya, composed of the three gunas, produces the universe comprising the moving and the unmoving objects. So says the chant. The One, the luminous, bidden in all beings, all-pervading the inner self of all, the superintendent of all acts, the abode of all beings, the witness, the perceiver, alone, and free from qualities. Because I am the witness, because I preside, this universe comprising the moving and the unmoving objects, the manifested and the unmanifested, moves on through all stages. Indeed, All activity in the world such as, I shall enjoy this, I see this, I hear this, I feel pleasure, I feel pain, to gain this I shall do it, I shall learn this, arises by way of forming an object of consciousness. It has its being in consciousness and has its end in consciousness. Such chants as, who in the supreme heaven, of the heart, is the witness of this, point only to this view accordingly as there is no conscious entity other than the one divine being. There cannot be a separate enjoyer, and it is therefore irrelevant to ask or to answer the question, of what purpose is this creation by the One, the Divine. The pure all-witnessing spirit or consciousness, having really no concern with any enjoyment whatever? So says the Shruti. Who could perceive it directly, and who could declare whence born and why this variegated creation? The Ishvara being the creator of the universe is the mere witness thereof. It is not right to ask or answer the question what is the purpose of creation. We cannot say that it is meant for the enjoyment of the Supreme, for the Supreme really enjoys nothing. It is pure consciousness, a mere witness. And there is no other enjoyer, for there is no other conscious entity. The Isvara is one only, and what is not conscious cannot enjoy. Nor is creation intended to secure moksha, because it is opposed to moksha. Thus, neither the question nor an answer to it is possible, and there is no occasion for it. As creation is due to the Maya of the Supreme. This Shruti means that it is very hard to know the Supreme Self. The Lord has also said, wisdom is enveloped by unwisdom, thereby mortals are deluded. 5.15 The life of the impious. Though I am thus eternal, pure, wise, and free, by nature, omniscient, the self of all.
अवजानन्ति मां मूढा मानुषीं तनुमाश्रितम् परं भावमजानन्तो मम भूतमहेश्वरम्.
Translation. Fools disregard me clad in human form, not knowing my higher being as the great Lord of beings. Fools, unable to discriminate, despise me living among them with a human body. These fools not understanding my higher being, not knowing that I am the Supreme Self, that I am, like Akasha, that I am the great Lord, the very Self, of all beings. Then by continually despising me, these poor creatures are ruined. How is their condition pitiable?
मोघाशा मोघकर्माणो मोघज्ञानाविचेतसः राक्षसीमासुरीं चैव प्रकृतिं मोहिनीं श्रुताः.
Translation. Of vain hopes, of vain actions, of vain knowledge, devoid of discrimination, partaking only of the delusive nature of Rakshasas and Asuras. They cherish vain hopes. The Agnihotra and other actions performed by them are fruitless, because they insult the Lord, because they neglect their own self. Even their knowledge is futile. They are devoid of discrimination. They partake of the nature of Rakshasas and Asuras. They see no self beyond the body and engage in cruel deeds, their rule of conduct being cut, break, drink, devour, rob others. Property. The ways of the faithful devotees. But the faithful who are engaged in devotion, bhakti, to the Lord, i.e., who walk in the path of moksha.
महात्मानस्तु मां पार्थ दैवीं प्रकृतिमाश्रिताः भजन्त्यनन्यमनसो ज्ञात्वा भूतादिमव्ययम्.
Translation. The Mahatmans, O son of Pritha, partaking of the nature of the Devas, worship me with mind turned to no other, knowing me as the imperishable source of all beings. Mahatmans, the high-souled. The nature of the Devas, gods, consists in their control over the body, mind and the senses, in kindness, in faith and the like. Beings, bhutas, all living creatures as well as all elements of matter. How do they worship?
सततं कीर्तयन्तो मां यतन्तश्च दृढव्रताः नमस्यन्तश्च मां भक्त्या नित्ययुक्ता उपासते.
Translation. Always talking of me, strenuous, firm in vows, and reverent, they worship me with love, always devout. After death such people will be born as Rakshasas or Asuras. The nature of Rakshasas consists in committing deeds of cruelty, and that of Asuras in robbing another's property, in the absence of charity and of sacrifice. With the mind resting on me, the innermost self, who am no other than their own self. Those whose mind, sattva, has been purified by yagna or sacrifice, etc. They always talk of me, their Lord, the very Brahman. They ever strive by way of subjugating the senses, by way of cultivating the virtues of self-control, kindness, innocence, and the like. Firm in their vows, they worship me in love, me who am their very self lying in the heart. In what different ways do they worship? Listen.
ज्ञानयज्ञेन चाप्यन्ये यजन्तो मामुपासते एकत्वेन पृथक्त्वेन बहुधा विश्वतोमुखम्.
Translation. Worshipping by the wisdom sacrifice, others adore me, the all-faced, in various ways, as one, as different. Knowledge of the Lord is itself a sacrifice. Worshipping by this sacrifice of wisdom, others adore me, having abandoned all other forms of worship. And that knowledge varies thus: some worship with the knowledge of the real truth that one, verily, is the Para-Brahman. Some worship with the knowledge that the Lord Vishnu himself exists as different beings, as the sun, the moon and the like. Others worship him, who exists in all forms as the all-faced, thinking that the one Lord exists in all the different forms, with his face on all sides. All worship goes to the Lord. If they worship in so many different ways, how do they, as you sayest, worship you only? The Lord says,
अहं क्रतुरहं यज्ञः स्वधाहमहमौषधम् मन्त्रोऽहमहमेवाज्यमहमग्निरहं हुतम्.
Translation. I am Kratu. I am Yagna. I am Swadha. I am Oshadha. I am Mantra. Myself the butter. I am fire. I the act of offering. Kratu is a class of Vedic sacrifices. Yagna is the worship enjoined in the Smriti. Svadha is the food offered to ancestors, Pitris. The Oshadha means plants in general, including rice and barley, eaten by all living beings. Or, Svadha is food in general, and Oshadha is the medical, food, serving to alleviate sickness. I am the mantra, the chant with which the oblation is offered to the Pitris and the Devtas. I am the fire into which the offering is poured. And
पितामहस्य जगतो माता धाता पितामहः वेद्यं पवित्रमोङ्कारा ऋक्सामयजुरेव च.
Translation. I am the father of this world, the mother, the dispenser, and grandsire. I am the knowable, the purifier, the syllable Om, and also the Rik, the Saman, and the Yajus also. The dispenser of the fruits of action. And
गतिर्भर्ता प्रभुः साक्षी निवासः शरणं सुहृत् प्रभवः प्रलयस्थानं निधानं बीजमव्ययम्.
Translation. I am the goal, the sustainer, the Lord, the witness, the abode, the shelter and the friend, the origin, dissolution and stay, the treasure house, the seed imperishable. I am the goal, the fruit of action. I am the witness of what is done and what is not done by all living beings. I am the abode wherein all living beings dwell. I am the shelter for the distressed. I relieve from distress those who come to me. I am the friend. I do good without expecting any is dissolved, and that in which it stays. I am the treasure house, that which living beings shall enjoy in a future period. I am the imperishable seed, that which causes the growth of all things that germinate, and which endures as long as the world, samsara, endures. Nothing indeed springs up without a seed, and since growth is constant, it is understood that continuity of the seed never fails. And
तपाम्यहमहं वर्ष्यं निघृण्णां युत्सृजामि च अमृतं चैव मृत्युश्च सदसच्चाहमर्जुन.
Translation. I give heat, I hold back and send forth rain. I am the immortality as well as death, existence and non-existence, O Arjuna. As the sun I give heat by some powerful rays. By certain rays I send forth rain, and having sent it forth I take it back by certain rays during 8 months, and again send it forth in the rainy season. I am the immortality of the gods, devas, and the death of the mortals. I am existence, the manifested the effect, which manifests itself in relation to the cause, and I am the reverse, the non-existence, the unmanifesti, the cause. Indeed the Lord can never be altogether non-existent, nor can it be said that the effect is existence and the cause is non-existence. The manifested world of effects is spoken of as existence and the unmanifested cause as non-existence. We cannot indeed hold that the divine essence is non-existence, for then we are driven to nihilism. Nor can the cause be spoken of as non-existence, as it is impossible to conceive existence arising out of non-existence, for the Shruti itself says, how can existence come out of non-existence? The fruits of interested acts of Vedic ritual. These men of wisdom who are devoted to me, adoring me by the sacrifices mentioned above, leading lives of retirement in various forms described above and regarding me as one or as different, they reach myself according to their knowledge. But as regards those who are ignorant and who long for objects of desire,
त्रैविद्या मां सोमपाः पूतपापा यज्ञैरिष्ट्वा स्वर्गतिं प्रार्थयन्ते ते पुण्यमासाध्य सुरेन्द्रलोकम् अश्नन्ति दिव्यान् दिवि देवभोगान्.
Translation. Men of the 3 Vedas, the Soma drinkers, purified from sin, worshipping me by sacrifices, pray for the goal of heaven. They reach the holy world of the Lord of the gods and enjoy in heaven the heavenly pleasures of the gods. Men who know the 3 Vedas, the Rik, the Saman and the Yajus, who drink soma and are thereby purified from sins, who worship me as the Vasus and other gods by sacrifices such as the Agnishtoma, who seek for Swarga as the reward of their sacrifices. They go to the world of Indra who had performed 100 sacrifices, and there enjoy supernatural, aprakrita, pleasures.
ते तं भुक्त्वा स्वर्गलोकं विशालम् क्षीणे पुण्ये मर्त्यलोकं विशन्ति एवं त्रयी धर्ममनुप्रपन्ना गतागतं कामकामा लभन्ते.
Translation. They, having enjoyed that spacious world of Swarga, their merit, punya, exhausted, enter the world of the mortals, thus following the dharma of the triad, desiring, objects of, desires, they attain to the state of going and returning. The dharma of the triad, mere Vedic ritual, karma, that which is enjoined by the three Vedas. They have to go and return, and never attain independence anywhere. The Supreme watching over his devotees' interests. Now, as regards those men of right knowledge who are free from desires.
Ananyāscintayantō māṁ ye janāः paryupāsate तेषां नित्याभियुक्तानां योगक्षेमं वहाम्यहम्.
Translation. Those men who, meditating on me as non-separate, worship me all around, to them who are ever devout, I secure gain and safety. Those men of renunciation, samnyasins, who worship me all around, ever meditating on me, regarding themselves as non-point separate, looking upon the Supreme God, Narayana, as their own self, to these who see the reality, who are ever devout, I secure gain. I secure to them what is not already possessed, and I secure to them safety, i.e., preservation of what is already possessed. As said in 7.17-18, they form my very self and are dear to me. Objection. To other devotees also the Lord secures gain and safety. Answer. True, he undoubtedly secures to them gain and safety, but there is this difference, while other devotees work themselves also for their own gain and safety, those who see nothing as separate from themselves do not work for their own gain and safety. Indeed, these latter never cherish a desire for life or death. The Lord alone is their refuge. Wherefore the Lord himself secures to them gain and safety. Other devotees do but worship the Supreme in ignorance. Objection. If other gods, devtas, are yourself only, their devotees also worship yourself. Answer. Just so, indeed.
येऽप्यन्यदेवता भक्ता यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेऽपि मामेव कौन्तेय यजन्त्यविधिपूर्वकम्.
Translation. Even those who, devoted to other gods, worship them with faith, worship myself, O son of Kunti, in ignorance. With faith, believing in the efficacy of the worship of those gods. Why those you say that they worship in ignorance? 4.
अहं हि सर्वयज्ञानां भोक्ता च प्रभुरेव च न तु मामभिजानन्ति तत्त्वेनातश्च वन्दिते.
Translation. I am indeed the enjoyer, as also the Lord, of all sacrifices, but they do not know me in truth, whence they fail. As the Devta, as the God to whom sacrifices are offered, I am the enjoyer and the Lord of all sacrifices enjoined in the Shruti and the Smriti. I am indeed the Lord of Yagna or sacrifice, as said in 8:4. So they do not know me as I am, whence, having worshipped in ignorance, they fail to attain the fruit of the sacrifice. The fruit of sacrifice certainly accrues to them also who devoted to other gods, worship me in ignorance. How?
यान्ति देवव्रता देवान् पितॄन्यान्ति पितृव्रताः भूतानि यान्ति भूतेज्या यान्ति मद्याजिनोऽपि माम्.
Translation. Votaries of the gods go to the gods, to the Pitris go the votaries of the Pitris, to the Bhutas go the worshippers of the Bhutas, my worshippers come to myself. The votaries of the gods, those whose devotion and vows are directed to the gods, go to the gods. The votaries of the pit, such as the Agnishvatas, engaged in performing Shraddha and other rites in devotion to the Pitris, go to the Pitris. The Bhutas are the Vinayaks, the hosts of Matris, the four Bhaginis and the like. My worshippers, Vishnu's votaries, come to myself. Notwithstanding the equality of trouble, people do not worship me alone, because of their ignorance. Wherefore they attain very small results. As the Vasus and other Devtas to whom the sacrifices are offered, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices, and as the Antaryaman, as the inner regulator of the universe, I am the Lord of all sacrifices. Not having dedicated their actions to me, they return to this world from the region to which they attain as the result of their sacrifice. The worship of the gods is not quite useless. The worshippers do attain results suited to the form of worship, but they have to return to this world after a time. Facility in devotion to the Supreme. Not only do my devotees attain an endless result, i.e., attain a state from which there is no return to this world, but it is also easy for them to worship me. How?
पत्रं पुष्पं फलं तोयं यो मे भक्त्या प्रयच्छति तदहं भक्त्युपहृतम् अश्नामि प्रयतात्मनः.
Translation. When one offers to me with devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, water, that I eat, offered with devotion by the pure-minded. Because it is so, therefore.
यत्करोषि यदश्नासि यज्जुहोषि ददासि यत् यत्तपस्यसि कौन्तेय तत्कुरुष्व मदर्पणम्.
Translation. Whatever you doest, whatever you eatest, whatever you sacrificest, whatever you givest, in whatever austerity you engagest, do it as an offering to me. Whatever you doest of your own accord, not enjoined in the Shastra, and whatever you offerest in sacrifice as enjoined in the Shruti or the Smriti, whatever you givest such things as gold to the Brahmanas and others, do all that as an offering to me. Now listen as to what will accrue to you doing thus.
शुभाशुभफलैरेवं मोक्ष्यसे कर्मबन्धनैः सन्न्यासयोगयुक्तात्मा विमुक्तो मामुपैष्यसि.
Translation. Thus shalt you be liberated from the bonds of actions which are productive of good and evil results, equipped in mind with the yoga of renunciation, and liberated, you shalt come to me. Thus, when you thus offer everything to me, this act of offering everything to me constitutes the yoga of renunciation. It is renunciation inasmuch as everything is offered to me, and it is also yoga inasmuch as it is an action, karma. Thus, with mind equipped with yoga and renunciation, you shalt be liberated from bonds while yet living, and when this body is dead, you shalt come to me. The impartiality of the Supreme. Objection. Then the Lord has love and hatred, since he bestows his grace on his devotees, not on others. Answer. Not so.
समोऽहं सर्वभूतेषु न मे द्वेष्योऽस्ति न प्रियः ये भजन्ति तु मां भक्त्या मयि ते तेषु चाप्यहम्.
Translation. The same I am to all beings. To me there is none hateful or dear, but whoso worship me with devotion, they are in me, and I am also in them. I am like fire, just as fire does not ward off cold from those who are at a distance and wards it off from those who go near it. So I bestow my grace on my devotees, not on others. Those who worship me, the Lord, with devotion are in me, as a matter of course, but not owing to any attachment on my part. In them also I am, only as a matter of course, not in others. By this behavior, I cannot be said to hate the latter. Those who are devoted to me, performing the duties of their caste and order, become pure in mind, in virtue of that very devotion of unthinkable grandeur, and they are in me, their minds are rendered fit for my presence. And, being in their presence as a matter of course, I ever do good to them. Just as the sun's light, though pervading everywhere, is reflected in a clean mirror, so also is the Supreme Lord present as a matter of course in those persons only from whose minds all dirt has been removed by devotion. It has been said in 9.13 that those are devoted to the Lord, who partake of the nature of the Devas. Even the low-born attain salvation by devotion. Now I shall tell you how excellent a thing devotion to me is.
अपि चेत् सुदुराचारो भजते मामनन्यभाक् साधुरेव समन्तव्यः सम्यग् व्यवसितो हि सः.
Translation. If one of even very evil life worships me, resorting to none else, he must indeed be deemed righteous, for he is rightly resolved. He is rightly resolved, he is a man of good resolution. By abandoning evil ways in his external life, and by the power of his internal right resolution.
क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शश्वच्छान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि न मे भक्तः प्रणश्यति.
Translation. Soon he becomes righteous and attains eternal peace. Do you, O son of Kunti, proclaim that my devotee never perishes? Listen, this is the real truth. You mayest proclaim that he who is devoted to me in his inner soul never perishes.
मां हि पार्थव्यपाश्रित्य येऽपि स्युः पापयोनयः स्त्रियो वैश्यास्तथा शूद्रास्तेऽपि यान्ति परां गतिम्.
Translation. For, finding refuge in me, they also who, O son of Pritha, may be of a sinful birth, women, Vaisyas as well as Sudras, even they attain to the supreme goal. The Yoga of Devotion.
किं पुनर्ब्राह्मणाः पुण्या भक्ता राजश्रयस्तथा अनित्यमसुखं लोकमिमं प्राप्य भजस्व माम्.
Translation. How much more then the holy Brahmanas and devoted royal saints, having reached this transient joyless world, do you worship me? Holy, of pure birth. This world, the world of man, human birth, which is the means of attaining spiritual aspirations, Purushartha, and which is very hard to attain. Moreover,
मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो मद्याजीवां नमस्कुरु मामे वैश्यसि युक्त्वैव मात्मानं मत्परायणः.
Translation. Fix your mind on me, be devoted to me, sacrifice to me, bow down to me. Thus steadied, with me as your supreme goal, you shall reach myself, the Self. Me, Vasudeva. Steadied, in thought, Chitta. I am the self of all beings, and I am the supreme goal.
ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे राजविद्या राजगुह्ययोगो नाम नवमोऽध्यायः.
Thank you for watching. Please support us. Please like, share, subscribe.